Hi everyone, it's Mingzi again, and this video marks the halfway point of Introduction to ArcGIS Online. For this video, we're going to take a pause on the analysis side of things and focus more on the additional cosmetic changes we can apply onto our map. We're going to be dealing with a pet peeve of mine, which is when people do not configure their pop-up and leave it as the default. As a default, the pop-up would appear based on the tabular information and the format. For example, area shortcode 99. What does that even mean? Is that even relevant to include in our pop-up? As a storyteller, it's our responsibility to make our visuals simple and effective for our audience member. In this video, we're going to learn how to customize pop-ups on our map. To customize the pop-up, you'll have to go to the corresponding layer on the Contents panel. In that case, we want to go to Toronto Neighborhood, highlight it, and click on More Options. Select Configure Pop-up, and this will bring up the Configure Pop-up panel. You can decide whether to show a pop-up or not, and then also change the pop-up title, which corresponds to the bolded font up top in the pop-up. So we want the pop-up title to show the neighborhood name. To do that, we can simply click on backspace and click on the plus sign to see the field or the column that you want to draw the text from. So we want the area name of the neighborhood. So notice once you click on that, the input now has a curly bracket that represents the column it's referencing from. I do want to highlight the changes made on the pop-up configuration panel is not reflected on the map instantly. To see the changes, you'll need to hit OK, which is different from configuring the style of a map that we learned in video 4. So now you see that our changes are reflected with the area name as our title. So now that we've seen the changes made, let's go back to our pop-up configuration for the Toronto neighborhood. Go to Configure Pop-up. Now we're going to try to edit the pop-up content which makes up the rest of the pop-up here. So currently the pop-up content is displaying a list of field attributes, and the list of field attributes means the values for a particular row of information in your tabular data. You can reorganize the ordering and arrangement of a particular column, so a particular field, and it would display based on the order you have indicated here. You can also change the characteristic of a column. Maybe you don't want to display a certain column, you can remove it. Or, for example, in our population, we don't want it to have decimal place, so we can change that here as well. You also have the option to display just one item of the column in your table form. So for example, I can pick just to show in my pop-up the average age. You can also choose to show no information in your content of your pop-up. What we want is a custom attribute display for pop-up content. So let's click on that. And once you click on that, you'll notice that there is now a green button. When you click on the green configure button, it brings you to a new window, which is your text editor. Here in your text editor, you can put in some custom text. For example, because this is a layer on Toronto neighborhoods, we're going to include some of the demographic information we've enriched in our, I believe, third video, where we added more context to our data set. So here, let's give it a population, total population. We want to include maybe median age of this neighborhood. Now we don't have to include the neighborhood name because we already included that in the pop-up title. And we also, media age. We also want to put in percentage of people 70 plus. And to put in the value for the total population for one particular neighborhood, we need to draw our connection to our table, which are our columns inside that table, and that would be the total population. Median age would be another column called total median age, And as for the percent of people 70 plus, we don't actually have that column, but remember in one of our video where we stylized our map, we did an equation. So we're going to do just that. So let's first hit OK. And underneath pop-up content, you have an attribute expression. This is similar to the expression you've added. So if you click on add, you'll notice this pop-up is the arcade pop-up that we worked on earlier. So let's give this pop-up a name, percent of people 70 plus. Hit save. So let's first remove the default script and expression. And now we're going to go into our layer, go into feature, and add the 70 and above age groups. So we are going to click on this here, hit the add button, click here, add, add, bracket that equation, and then go back to the very end and divide it by the total population, 2019 total population. Once again, give the overall equation a bracket, hit end, and multiply that equation by 100 to get the percent of people 70 plus. So here it is again, 16.80%. Hit OK, and now you'll see that you have one expression added to your attribute expression menu here. Now going back into our text editor, or go into a configure, we can now see that percent of people 70 plus expression generated from what we did previously. So let's click on that. Give it some character mode and add a percent sign to the end of the equation. Just fixing some stuff up here, and then hit OK. Hit OK. Going back into our map, if we click on a pop-up, we'll see the change reflected. So we have now a total population, median age, and the percent of people 70 plus. So this is looking really good. I mean, the only thing I would change are the decimal place in population, because that doesn't make sense. So to change that, you go back into configure pop-up. Under the configure green button, there's a configure attributes. Click on that. And the troubling value that's giving us this decimal is the total population. So let's go find that total population field here. Click on it and change the format to 0 decimal place. Hit OK. Hit OK again. And now you see your decimal place are gone. Another added benefit to custom attribute display as a content for your pop-up is the ability to customize the content with HTML. So going back into my configure pop-up panel, in my configure settings, I can actually configure this text editor box with HTML. If you're comfortable with HTML, you can create pop-ups such as this. So this map is a map of real estate in the greater Vancouver area, and HTML code was added so that these arrow signs pointed in a direction based on negative or positive of the value. And notice how the color changes as you toggle between the different regions of Vancouver. So that's something you can do in the text editor with HTML. Back to our map here. One last thing we can add in the pop-up are the media. So these are your images, your charts. You can add an image and paste a URL of an image. And notice how the URL of an image can come from a column as well. So if you had a column with the image URL, you can draw or reference that column to configure the image for your pop-up. Another thing you could do is adding charts. So you can add a chart, give it a name, let's say population chart. And ideally, I would want the population chart to include all the age group. However, we only have age group 70 plus. So we can just add that and make that into a chart. You can also customize the labels for the chart in this window here. So I'm going to just quickly do that. And you can give it a caption. I'm just going to leave it as it is and then hit OK. Now you'll see that the population chart is added. We'll hit OK to see the results. So if we click on a region here, you can see the different values for a particular age group. So that's how a chart would look like in a pop-up. So I'm pretty happy with the pop-up I have here. So let's save the map. I actually forgot to save in my extent. So let's just do that really quickly. And with this new skill fresh in mind, go ahead and configure the pop-up for the food bank layer to include the organization's name, the address, and a clickable URL. Let's quickly recap on what we learned in this video. We configured the pop-up title, and in our case, we gave it an area name or the neighborhood name. Then we learned the different types of display that we can have in our pop-up content. We later on moved to generating an expression that didn't exist in our column of our table dataset, so that we can have that expression inside our custom attribute. We also explored the possibility of adding charts and images to our pop-up. So after this video, there should not be an excuse for not configuring your pop-up on a map.